Mikey.
You're right.
Yeah, good. How are you?
I'm good.
I met you on set. Well, I didn't meet you originally. I met your character because you were method acting.
Yeah.
And it was fucking insane. It was disturbing every time I saw you because you were covered in blood, in a ball, curled up with. I think you just had boxers on. I can't remember.
It was so I'd the first day I had the one when you weren't in there. I had like loose boxers on underneath, and it was like some like ripped up boxers on top, and it was a little bit problematic because it turns out that everything down there kind of was a bit, so we had to be very careful that nothing was shown on camera. But the second day it was like tighter boxers underneath, and then that's what I was wearing. So I wasn't going full commando running around Oaklands, which was good.
I did hear that your bollock fell out.
I wasn't sure if I could say that, but yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Anything goes.
Yeah, the little guy fell out a couple of times.
Man, that's sick though. To be able to have that experience on set, was that the first film you made?
So that wasn't the first short film I've been in. I've done a couple before. The first one was when I was 19 and in college. I had 2 scenes as sort of a chav who was having, bullying this adult man, which is quite an experience.
Yeah, definitely.
I was in 2 last term and I was in another one this term, but this has probably been like the biggest one I've ever done in my entire life up to this point.
Right.
And the first time I've done method as well.
Yeah. Really fucking cool.
Yeah,
it looked like you were experienced in it, to be honest.
I mean, I don't know. I think it was probably by that point I was becoming more comfortable being in front of the camera, having done it so much, just throwing myself into different short films.
Right.
And the preparation for it was just a bit it was a bit immense. There was a couple of times where I genuinely was a bit scared for my mental health, because I think when we were filming, I was paying attention, but it was like the character was more in control of me than I was in control of me.
Right.
I wasn't really paying attention to my own thoughts. I think that's probably why I didn't really care about going around Oakland with loads of people doing their assessments in their tutus, watching me basically half naked in makeup and blood and stuff. So
Right. Yeah, I can imagine, because your character does not care.
no, he doesn't.
At that point.
No.
So scary. Around that time, I don't know if you heard of Darren Black's script, The Baker Street Irregulars.
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's,
what's that? What's it about?
oh, it's pretty dope, to be honest. I think he's gonna try and like do something with it this summer to actually get it released. I'm not too sure, but it's in Sherlock. There's these guys called the Irregulars. So in the modern day version, like the one with Benedict Cumberbatch, they're the homeless people's network.
Okay.
So he speaks to them. They find out information. I can't remember who they were in the old.
Yeah. No, I do. I actually do remember. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he set it where these roadmen and these chavs are like having some sort of a war, and this girl that's obsessed with Sherlock tries to get a little group together.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the film, they're like, "We would be called the Baker Street Irregulars."
That sounds pretty cool.
It's dope. And I played a character that's a little chav that's like a bit of an idiot. He was actually called Ali, ironically. And he's sat in this seat in my scene. He's sat in this seat, he's tied down, and this his boss comes along and like starts interrogating him. But before the scene, I was beaten up to fuck, like really badly. So
Yeah.
before the scene, that building out by in the field, I was jumping off that doing dive rolls, and my shoulder hurt for like a week afterwards. I got winded. It was so much pain.
Jesus.
And I can't remember if I was inspired by you, if it happened before or after, but
Oh wow.
it's pretty intense doing that sort of stuff, and it definitely gets you in the mindset of the character.
It really does. I mean, like when the scene where I ran into the foyer of Oakland's.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised I didn't. So I don't think I really cared at that point, because it was sort of like being in the character, getting the shot, getting what Emily wanted, getting just what was envisioned, and the amount of times that I ran into Oakland's and just like smashed my foot against the solid, stairs going in. I'm just surprised I didn't break anything. I don't have any bruises. Like, the fact is more of the crew had bruises from falling over and stuff like that than I did. I had absolutely no bruises, no cuts, nothing. All of the blood was like fake. I never actually bled once, which is completely surprising.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man. Looking at you now, it doesn't look like I'm looking at the same dude that I met on that film set.
No.
You know that it's a phenomenal actor. There's something that I think insane about actors.
Yeah.
That you can like sit there and fully imagine that you've been locked in a basement for 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, the preparation for it, which was an hour locked in my bathroom in the dark, every night leading up to it. So the 2 nights leading up to the first shoot, and then I didn't do it the night after the first shoot because I was just exhausted. We did 108 shots. We did 80. What was it? 80 shots that day, in that one day. And then the next day I was helping out with another shoot. So I was pretty tired. But then I did it that night, and I think the first time I did it on the Monday night, I think it was a bit scary at first. But as I got into it, it got to the point where I think the character kind of very much, the idea of it just started to take over. And at first I started talking to, this is going to sound weird, my toilet brush as the inanimate object that I would make friends with in the basement after 5 years.
Right.
And at first it just sounded like I was talking to it rather than the character. But then after being in there for so long, because you don't have a clock in there, you lose complete an idea of time. I didn't know, it felt like I'd been in there for hours, but it was only actually an hour, and I was just getting very crazy when talking to this sort of toilet brush, and this is something I haven't actually said to anyone, but when you're stuck in there, you do start to, like, your brain plays tricks on you. You start to see things, you start to imagine things out your corner of the eye, like you feel like there's a shadow there. There was one point, I think it was on the second and the third night, because the second and the third nights when I did it, I was more used to it, so it was okay. Right. But there was just more intense things that happened where I was, even though I was used to it, I was kind of like, oh, should I call it? Should I just leave? Because it's starting to get to me. It's actually starting to like hit to me, and I just had to keep telling myself, and this is, I think, how I managed to stay in character for so long, is that it was just me and Henry. So when I was in Oakland's moving it around, like whenever people would look at me, I just wouldn't even acknowledge their existence. Like I didn't see them. I was just there listening to what Emily and that was feeding to me, and that was it. But there was a point when I was preparing, when I was in that bathroom, where there was like, it seemed like there was the feet of a man in front of me, and it was like a white sort of figure, and it was definitely I hope it was my brain playing tricks on me, but it was very intense.
Oh my God.
And
our studio's falling apart.
Our studio's falling apart. I mean, there was other preparation that was a little bit less intense than that. I mean, when I left my bedroom on the day of each shoot, I would go out and I would walk out in character, bent knees, as if the character was walking rather than crouching, but still bent knees moving. And then as I got to the car park bit of Stockbridge, I put a towel over my head, so I wouldn't even look at anyone that was in the car. As soon as I got out the car, they would guide me from the car into Oakland's. The only time I would take the towel off my head was when I was down there in the basement, and at that point I was staying in character all day until usually about 5:30 in the afternoon. So I get up at usually about 7, half 7. We get there for usually about 8:30, and we start filming 9, half 9, and we'd be there till about 5:30. But yeah, we did 80 shots the first day and 108 shots the second day. So we did 188 shots in 2 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, but across this whole time of filming, did you have any interaction with people?
During the interaction, No.
Oh my God.
So generally what I would do well, what would happen is if someone wanted to talk to me, they'd say something to me, and I'd do this. I would grunt to them when they were talking to me. I would grunt. I would just grunt. I wouldn't. Sometimes I would try and put words over the grunt if they couldn't understand what I was saying. They'd talk to me about the shot, and I'd understand what they were saying, and I'd be like, and if they wanted to go again, or if they'd say, "Do you want to go again?" I'd just go.
Yeah.
You know, and
oh my god,
it was a bit insane, because you just, at first it was a bit weird, but then you just get used to it, and it just comes out normally. And sitting there, like, I'd sit whenever on my break, just sit there, not stare at anyone. I'd just stare at the floor, just staying in character.
Yeah.
And they could be messing around, because just it's a bit fun. Your first film, big film, first 5-minute film, I guess, because we had a £300 budget, so there was a lot to it.
Oh, fantastic. Did university do that?
No, Emily put like her heart and soul into this film. She had a vision for this film.
Right.
So she really helped. Like, I think if it could have been maybe anyone else directing it, they probably wouldn't have put as much in as she did.
Yeah, I can imagine. She's so driven. She's starting to make us. Oh, I don't know if I should say that, but she's working on another project already, which I don't know if you've heard.
Dad's
of.
Boots, yeah.
Oh, one that she's writing.
Oh, one she's writing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, POV. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah. She's told me about it. Yeah, I think she wants me to play a character with. I think my friend from my class, Michael Rose, who's very much like me. He's very physical. He's we did a scene recently in Adams called the Pig Fuckers, and where we were we've got the same name. We literally got the same name. We look fairly similar. I'm a little bit taller. I'm a little bit older. But he's a little bit more attractive. So he's got that. But
what was it called? Pig Fuckers.
Pig Fuckers. So basically in Adams for this like, it wasn't assessed. It was just for fun. It's like doing short scenes and stuff. And we all got to make up our own characters from scratch. And me and him, without even talking to each other, both made up murderers, sort of like serial killers. And then we decided they'd be brothers. And then without even saying anything to each other when we were developing these characters, we both decided that they would feed their victims to pigs. Yeah, our scene was about us locking our cleaner. It was like a forensic cleaner, because we decided we couldn't have her anymore. So we locked her in the room, and we were like just planning on murdering her. And in the scene, we just bounced off each other so well. We just flowed together. It worked. And the decisions we made were just on the spot, just both of us thinking individually, but they just worked in nice flow together. So hopefully if we do work together in POV, it'd be interesting to what happens.
You play a lot of dark characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you played many others?
Yeah, I mean, I've done comedy roles
Okay.
before, mostly on stage, because before even doing any student films, I did community theatre. That's all I did. And then I did performing arts at college, and then in my first year I got an opportunity to audition for that short film, and I think that's the only non-intense role really that I've played, because one of the ones last year in first semester, I played it was a true story actually. The girl who wrote it and directed it is for 2-minute films, and it was about her mother, who used to be a university lecturer, and when she was pregnant actually with her, and I think married to her father, one of her students became obsessed with her. So he would try and get extra, like, sort of sit-down sessions with her, just to be with her. Then he'd buy her gifts. He'd go to her house. He'd call her house. It got to the point where her husband had to, like, pick up the phone and just tell him that he needs to stop and that it's getting a bit too intense.
Yeah.
And eventually, just one day, apparently he just never turned up to uni and just never came back again. This guy just completely disappeared. And so this character was based off of him, and I played that character. And it was a basically extra sit-down session where I was sitting down with the teacher, and I bought her a coat, and it was played by a third year. I can't remember her name, but she was brilliant. She was brilliant in the film, and it was at first I think I was a little bit nervous, or I wouldn't say nervous, but more unsure because it's the first time I've worked with someone in a higher year.
Right.
But because she was so experienced and she knew what she was doing, I found it good to be able to bounce off of her with my craziness. So I was using a lot of the eyes, just like the little smile, like crazy smile that works with the eyes, just looking at her. And there was points where she just couldn't look at me because it was just too much.
Right. Yeah, those characters are fun to play.
They are fun to play because they give you just that position of weird power and creativity that you can just make someone feel uncomfortable, like in themselves. I was trying to say legitimately.
Got halfway there.
Yeah, I did, but then put a B there. In themselves, but also as the character, which just makes their performance brilliant as well. And I think if you can play those roles, you can hold the status quo of the scene.
That's so true.
Just in an empowering sort of way.
Yeah, I feel like if you can play roles like that where you can make the other actor uncomfortable, it's, well, in my experience, it's therefore easier to play other types of roles.
Yeah.
You've done the thing, like usually as humans we don't really want to make someone across us uncomfortable.
No.
We want to be friendly and nice, but when we push it to that limit, we can do anything.
Yeah.
Man, it's so cool. I love our jobs.
I love, yeah. I've realised definitely recently that after doing, I enjoyed doing it last year. I directed my own 2-minute short film, which was a comedy. So I did get a chance to show a little bit of a less insane side to me.
Yeah.
Really, because as said, a lot of the roles that I played on camera have just been sort of a bit crazed. So it'd be nice to play something else, which I did recently for the DOP of Emily's film, Alanis's, her film.
Right.
Which I think was my first time, where I played a previous virgin who just lost his virginity. Then his best friend basically guilt-tripped him into believing that he had raped this girl when he kind of hadn't. Because it would be kind of from a contextual sort of perspective, but as someone who hadn't had sex before, he was very much unsure, and she basically was trying to persuade him to kill himself, and he did. And
your character?
Yeah, my character killed himself. And although she played it off as I've just lost my best friend, in reality she gets off from just making people kill themselves.
Oh, has she done that before?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So that was a bit of a kind of rom-com. It had a bit of comedy, and it had like the whole romantic side of, I guess, losing your virginity, but then it was a bit psychological with the whole character killing themselves.
Yeah. Oh man, it's disturbing. Were there any moments where you found comedy in that film?
Yeah. There were a few times where there was this scene on a park bench outside the university house, where basically I was telling her I'd lost my virginity, and there was just some very sort of just like nice lines that had been written in, but then I started to add in a few things in between that kind of caught Emily off guard, because she was playing my best friend that I was telling, and it just genuinely made her laugh to the point that there was one take where she couldn't stop laughing, and she was trying to say her line, and Alanis was just stood behind the camera just waiting for her, and eventually she did say cut, but
Was that included in the film?
I don't know, because I think most people in my year are gonna do a sort of director's cut or just an extended cut afterwards, because we could only have it 5 minutes, especially Emily's, because she had to get rid of so much for her hand in for that film, because we realized with 188 shots that it's actually more of a 20-25 minute film rather than a 5-minute film. So
yeah, that makes sense.
There's points. It's good, the 5-minute film. It's just not as good. She really wants it to be edited again so her vision can be shown. Although I feel there is not a letdown, but if we were to reshoot it, there'd be one thing that we would do, and there's this room in Oakland's, and it's around the corner. And I think you guys were there doing the Were you there when they were throwing the ball at the door?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that room that they were in, nothing over both days that we did in that room just went right. Just nothing really just could go right. I mean, the shots were fine. Some of the shots were like, the first day we did it, we were doing the scene where I was escaping, shoving the ice skate in, and then like the pencil, and then just tearing the door open.
Right.
And it was quite funny because I had to stay in character during this entire time. It's a pretty small room, and the only person that was outside the room was Kat, who was doing scripts supervising with Lorna on the first day, and then Lorna, Emily, Alanis, and Martin, the sound operator, were in the room with me, and there was just spiders everywhere, and they were all screaming. And even Martin, who's a pretty big guy, he's about 6'1", was just like he became a little bit of a little girl, and he was there was one funny moment where Emily went camera and Alanis went rolling, and then there was a spider coming down, so without even saying sound or speed, Martin was just like action just because he just wanted to get out of there. But that room is just cursed. Nothing ever went up to, I think, the standard that it could have been for those scenes. It was just difficult to shoot in there. I think if we shot in any other room, it probably would have been better, but it's unfortunate. But hopefully they can do some editing to make it look
You're not gonna get back into all that method acting.
Oh, it'd be interesting. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, you're considering it?
I think I would definitely consider doing it again, and a role like that, 100%. I think, though, next time, one thing that we didn't do, and I think it was more or less because when I snapped out of the role on both days, because I snapped out of it pretty quickly as soon as they called cut on the last scene, and people started talking to me, and I knew that it was over.
Yeah.
I was sort of okay, now I don't have to do this anymore. So I start talking normally, and I think because I came out of that so quickly, especially on the last day. Yeah. I kind of realized I had a bit of a bad mental health week a couple of weeks after, and it was for other reasons as well. It had many other reasons. I think it was just generally just a bad week for me. And I think if I did it next time, I'd definitely take the time after each shoot to just sit down with someone and just talk. So I think if anyone's ever considering doing method, especially like that, because obviously you've got different kinds of method. You can I talked to someone recently in first year called Owen, and he did method where he was playing I think these boys that were taken hostage by the IRA for a short film, and he actually went and lived with this family where the father was a former RIA interrogator. And they were apparently they were nice and stuff, but they would actually interrogate him not full on, but they would be very forceful and stuff like that. And those sort of, I guess that kind of method acting is okay to be able to possibly, depending on how you take it, walk away and not talk to anyone. But if you were doing something where it was very psychopathic, insane sort of thing, that's when I think you definitely have to, no matter what, talk to someone after you finish shooting. Yeah,
it can be dangerous. I don't think I've ever heard of an actor sort of hurting anyone else afterwards, but I've heard of actors, Heath Ledger. That's sort of an incident. It's so sad to see. So just, talking with someone, expressing all your feelings when that sort of a shoot happens. God. Scary business.
It is scary business.
I played a character with Asperger's today, and recently I've been in my own personal life, I've been trying to find confidence in myself and just to not depend on other things like music, other things, to be happy, just to be happy. And because this character was very sensitive in his mind, he was always depending on his benefactor to be happy. And after playing that role, immediately my weakness, my insecurity came back up, and I had to go outside and put on some heavy metal and find it again, have a rave in the street on my own, down an alleyway. It
is hard to kind of not tell the difference, but to continue on without remembering that character. Like when I talk about it now and I think back to it and look back to it, I do remember the things that I was feeling and sort of thinking, but it just definitely wasn't me, because there was a lot of things that character had that, I mean, I do have, but with me, I internalize a lot of my problems, a lot of my feelings and stuff like that. So I don't show them, so people don't generally think that I have those things unless I talk to them about it and then, get comfortable about showing them around people. But that character 100% just didn't have any of those anxieties or any of those issues or feelings or emotions. And I think that was why I was able to kind of walk by people and just not care about what they were thinking when they were looking at me. Right. Especially because I stank. Like, I stank in those clothes and the costumes and just being naked, more or less. With the makeup and everything, like, I genuinely ponged. I knew it, but like the crew knew it 100%. So walking by people while they're like getting ready for their assessments, and then like them probably judging how I smelled and looked, I just didn't care. Like, whereas maybe me, if that was me, I'd probably internally be a bit anxious or care a little bit more. But that character that I was playing, I was so into it that I just no care in the world about what they thought.
Yeah. It sounds really freeing.
Yeah, it 100% is. There's so many aspects that I think, in terms of confidence in my personal life, that I would love to have that character had, as a complete crazed psychopath that had been locked in a basement for 5 years.
But I guess I've thought that as well, because I've played characters like that. I often like acting, where not if I'm in a busy high street, but if I'm just like walking down the road, or if I've got some music on, I like to play a character and act. Yeah. And like, obviously I won't ever hurt someone. If I see someone in the street that's across the street, I'll like kind of snap out of it a little, or I'll tone it down and like smile. But to sort of embody that, it's so much fun. But I think it can be like, we have the option to like act confident, like fake it till you make it. But I think it's good to like find that in ourselves, like find out who we are. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
No, I completely agree with that, because I think there's a lot of times where, let's be honest, when you're going into an assessment, especially, the more you do something, the more confident you become at it anyway. But especially in first year, when you're going into your first acting assessment that's on camera, and you've got to consider continuity, you've got to consider everything when you're doing it with your partner. I think you cannot not be nervous beforehand, and even if you're presenting that strong sort of blockade that you are confident, it is just something that you're putting on, and you can be confident by just doing that, but you are internalizing a lot of those feelings. And I think finding yourself, especially before you go in front of camera, and even when you're doing method acting or just generally playing a character, embodying the role, whatever you're going to do, finding yourself, knowing why you're doing it and why you enjoy doing what you do, no matter whether it's difficult or whether it's easy in that scene, because I generally don't think there's ever a scene or part that's easy. Finding yourself definitely does help.
100%.
Because not knowing yourself allows you to have all those anxieties and insecurities just come up, and those things, they can help with some characters, but generally speaking, that's a short range of characters. If you want to play a wide range of characters, you've got to be able to take what you have emotionally and only use it when it is needed for that character. And if it is coming up in your own personal life, and it's not to do with that character that you're playing, you have to try and just forget about it. Because really, for me, I think those things can just get in the way of creating some form of magic in front of the camera.
Yeah, 100%. I found that in, I think it was the start of this year. Yeah, it was with Darren. There was a character I was playing that they were supposed to be having an argument, and I had this sort of a mindset that I was like, okay, I'm about to do this scene. I'm in front of a bunch of people. I'm feeling nervous inside. I'm going to let that show as part of the character. But it didn't really work. It ended up sort of being a compassionate, nice, gentle talk instead of an argument. And I suppose, yeah, like you said, you got to be comfortable with yourself. I read in a book recently, Acting Face to Face. I don't know if you know that one.
I've not read that one.
Oh, okay. Pretty solid book. It basically goes into the intricacies of the face, like all the little muscles, and it was saying that every person, throughout their lifetime, the emotions that they feel, their face sort of like holds that.
Yeah.
So your muscles sort of hold the shape. If you're a miserable person, your face will be down, like kind of like laughter lines.
Yeah.
So if you don't know that about yourself, you can't adapt it.
No. Yeah.
If you smile as like a cat that's happy and those things stay, you need to know how to adjust them.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I guess from a first year level, and maybe a little bit more, I kind of know that, but I've never had someone explain it to me like that. Actually, to be fair.
Right. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
It is, you know. I was kind of like shocked because I didn't think the face actually held all those little intricacies. It's strange.
I guess if anyone's got a resting bitch face, it's probably because they're a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Twilight. I can't remember her name now, but there was a big thing on the internet at the time that she had just a resting bitch face.
Yeah, I do remember. I do remember that. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Such. Have you ever? How did you feel after playing that role? Like the emotions and such. Like, well, you said you went to the sort of like a bad place. Obviously, if you don't want to talk about that, that's okay.
Yeah. No. 100%. I will never not talk about anything really.
Okay. I respect that.
And I think with that, afterwards, not talking to anyone about it, and just kind of because I think everyone assumed I was okay by just snapping out of the role and being me again. I was fine for probably about 4 or 5 days after the shoot, maybe not even that. And then it was, to be fair, the next week was hand-in week for a lot of our assessments, and it just it was very tiring. I was staying in the library till like 2 a.m. Doing essay, editing the film, because I edited the film for the group that I was crew of.
Right.
And so doing that, but it just got to a point where I became very quiet. I sort of this anxiety which I've had for a while, for probably about 6-7 years, that comes up every so often, and I don't really pay attention to it, but it does get a bit harsh when I'm down. Is that I will be in a room and I'll believe that even some of the most closest people to me just dislike me or just hate me at the time, and that they just don't want to talk to me. They'd rather talk to other people in the room. They'd rather spend time with them. And so whenever they would talk to me when we were in the Mac room or respond to me, I would either be very blunt or I'd be very just quiet and down, and I'd give them 1 to 2 2-word answers. And then when we'd be leaving, walking home, generally I just wouldn't say much to them. I'd just be quiet, very silent. And I'd just continue feeling like that pretty much every single day. And then I think there was actually a point where on the Thursday we had a meeting, because I'm I'm a runner on the third year's film Das Boot this summer.
Oh, nice.
And I mean, me, Emily, Alanis, and my friend Imogen, and other people are from first year are doing it as well. And when we were in there, I'd kind of had a bit of a shit morning. The night before, I'd got drunk. I just got absolutely paralytically drunk. And coincidentally, this Thursday was the last full day that we had to edit the film. So I kind of got drunk before I was supposed to finish all my paperwork, more or less. Not after, which is a bit ironic. I did end up staying up to 8 a.m. Finishing my paperwork on the Friday morning. Yeah.
Whilst you were still drunk.
Yeah. No.
So, like, that sort of state after you've been drunk. Oh, man.
Yeah, but I went into this meeting that we had, and honestly, we was just sat there for the first hour of it, just having this mental breakdown internally, not saying anything to anyone, just felt even the people next to me in first year who I was close with just didn't like me, or they preferred other people. And then I think within the space of that, people in that room, especially Jason, who is just an absolute legendary person to be around. I mean, he is a one-of-a-kind person.
100%.
I generally don't think I'm going to meet anyone like him for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Basically, just being around him did very much, like, just cheered me up. And then I think it was at the end of, I climaxed my sort of mental breakdown and sort of realised that I didn't really care about a lot of these feelings that I was having and a lot of these problems that I was feeling on the inside. And I did have a few rough days here and there afterwards, but I definitely got better, and I'm definitely better now. I'm a lot better now. I'm a lot more confident in myself walking around now, and just a lot less anxious and nervous when going out with like the big group of friends that I have in first year. So that is a lot better. That's a good thing to end on in first year. Yeah. But 100%, I think I don't think the method acting was the main cause of it. It did have an application towards it, but I think I was just going through a lot of stuff. And one thing I will mention that I brought up when playing this character. Oh, helicopter!
Oh my god! Yeah, there was a gunman in Chichester.
Yeah.
Today.
Oh, yeah. I was stuck in the Mac room when it was going down, and there was a helicopter behind us, and it was flying low and hovering just over the area. And so me and my two friends that I was with, we were considering whether we would need to lock the door and turn the lights off and then hide where the window on the door couldn't see us.
Yeah.
It was all a bit frightening. But yeah.
Man.
I genuinely forgot where I was.
Oh, whilst you were... Sorry, I think I have as well. It was quite a crazy event. I was in the middle of my dance assessment today with the shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Wow. Wait, was that in town in the main building?
County Hall.
Yeah, they kind of that must have been a bit scary.
Not really.
No.
I only heard about it, and then
Yeah.
I don't know. It didn't really bother me.
Didn't just
I don't know.
man of no nerves.
Possibly. Or just a bit stupid. I shouldn't be scared really. It's a man with a shotgun.
I remember where I was.
Okay.
For the character, obviously, he had just lost his parents, and for me, over the past year, I've lost. So my granddad died 2 weeks after I arrived at uni. And I couldn't go back because his funeral happened when I was in isolation. And the day I came out of isolation was the day of his funeral. And so it was all, that was a bit crappy, as you can imagine. 100%. And I don't know, I sort of haven't really, I guess, gotten over that. And then I wrote my first 2-minute film, which really helped because he was a man that like told a lot of stories, and he just loved to tell stories, and he's one of those people that generally was just great just for me, and I just miss him. But it was one of those reasons why I loved writing that 2-minute film, because I got to tell a story, and it really did help. And then
it sounds like you're honouring him in a way.
Yeah, and then in January, my nan had 2 strokes and then died. Literally 3 days after I got back. Well, 3 days after I got back from uni, we found out that she had another stroke while she was trying to get over the first one, and then she died a week later. And again, I couldn't return because we were in lockdown and things were just too complicated.
Right.
But once again, I think doing what we do has really made me be able to kind of push forward and not get over it, because I don't think I ever will. Yeah. Because there was such a big part of my life. But I think doing what I do does allow me to kind of not sort of just prove that like every kind of sort of piece of support they put into me during my life growing up was worth it, and that I didn't let them down. And this role 100% for Emily's, because it's the most intense one I've done, and I just, whenever something wouldn't go right, and Emily would go, right, okay, look, do you want to do it again? Can we do it again? I think that was okay. And I'll be like, no. And I'll be grunting, obviously, but I'll be like, no, do it again. Let's do it again. Yeah. That's why I think, even though I was completely exhausted during those run-in scenes into the foyer, which we had done at 2 points during the day, so pretty much all day, even though I was exhausted, even though there was times where I'd made mistakes, I would be getting annoyed at myself, but getting annoyed at myself because I knew that I could do it better. I knew what I was doing. I shouldn't have made that mistake, that I can do it so much better the next take. Right. And even when I was nearly passing out on the ground outside, after every take of the last 5 shots, the willingness was that if I could just get up and just make sure that the envision and the magic was there in front of the camera, then I wouldn't be letting anyone down, and especially not Emily or Alanis or anyone on the crew, because obviously everyone had put so much work into that film. Yeah. And being the only actor, you do have that kind of levy that if you fuck up and there isn't time to reshoot anything, then that is kind of like, it's not on you, but then it is a little bit on you. So the willingness to just not settle for good, to settle for what you want to see, is probably what pushed me through.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Have you heard of David Goggins?
No.
Oh, he's a man, he's a Navy SEAL, and he has this concept of like callousing the mind, and pretty much what you did for that film.
I didn't even realize he did it.
it's just that concept of like pushing through. He had quite a hard upbringing as well. He had struggles, and man, it's impressive. Like, to the point where you're almost passing out, you're still running into that building. Over and over again, smacking your feet on concrete. Staying 5 days in character.
I felt sorry for you, because the couple of times that I ran in, and every time we'd finish the take, or like I'd be inside after closing the door, and I'd just fall to the ground and just on my bow on knees, just completely exhausted. There was even one time where I fell on my back and I looked like a cat that was just like laying backwards, and I felt bad because you had to watch me just do that, and then whenever you'd go, you're alright, and I just like, not only did I not have the energy to sort of respond, I just didn't even have the energy to just grunt or do anything, and then knowing that I had to get up and do it again. But
wow. So in that sort of a moment, because to me, don't feel bad, because every time I watched you do that, it was breathtaking. It was like watching those scenes with like Leo DiCaprio where they're having an argument in a relationship, or like, those phenomenal movie scenes, like What's Eating at Gilbert Grape with Leo DiCaprio again. Those sort of things where you're watching it and it just blows your mind how an actor, how a human being can just fully take on an imaginary situation and be in it. Every time I was watching it, and
I honestly, because everyone would say this stuff to me after the shoot, and like from what they'd seen on stories, from what Emily had or Alanis had recorded and put up, or Kat, or just whoever, and they would say, "Oh, that looked fucking amazing," and I'd go, okay. And it's not that I was unappreciative of the I think I do. Most people, I don't know if you get this, but do you struggle to sort of, when someone gives you a compliment, you kind of like struggle to know how to respond, and you're just there like, thanks, it's just like, because you just don't know what to say, because what do you say? But I think because I wasn't seeing it behind the camera, or I wasn't seeing it from an outside perspective, I didn't know whether it looked good or not. I was just throwing my complete all into it. But then when I did watch a lot of the clips back when they were editing it for the 5-minute submission, honestly, it was like I wasn't even looking at me. It just didn't seem like that was me. It seemed like someone else had done that, really.
Wow, so not the fact that you were watching it, like, it wasn't like you were watching yourself behaving, it was the fact that you didn't feel like you'd gone through that whole process?
Yeah, in a little bit of a weird way. Even in the days afterwards, it kind of like, when I think back to it, after I snapped out of it, it really didn't feel like I had done all of that stuff. I mean, I'd be exhausted. I have all the makeup and the costume over me and the beard and everything, but it really did not feel like that was me doing it. And when I think about it now, I don't even really recollect half of the stuff that I've done when I was there. It was very in the moment, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're so distant from yourself as this character.
Yeah.
It was scary watching it at points as well. It really was, watching you run into that building.
There was one point before we started doing the filming of the running into the foyer scenes outside. And then when we first started, because they filmed the bits on the inside of the foyer, so when I ran in and was sat down and going crazy, screaming and everything, and just... And at first I just couldn't... I think it was maybe because you have to get pumped up. Even if you're in that character, you just have to get pumped up, and you have to be able to... Because you need something that triggers you, because... The reason I was running in there was because I did something that triggered me. Yeah. Triggered something inside me to go back to how I was for those 5 years. So Lorna would come outside, and she did it really brilliantly. I think if I was ever to do something like this again, I would ask her to come along. Yeah, no, 100%, and just like pump me up and just get me into like that mode. If something, she did exceptionally well with doing it. She would basically approach me like I had just gone outside as that character, and she was just a normal person, not being stuck in a basement for 5 years, who had just found me like this, in this condition, acting like that. Yeah. And I'd stayed in character, and essentially she would react in a few different ways. There'd be times where she would... so she started off with on the phone, like she was calling the police or something, and just explaining how I looked like, and I was listening to that, and it made me react subconsciously, getting internally just like emotional about it. And then there was one point where she would go on the defensive, and then I would go on the like offensive against her, like trying to scare her away because I didn't know what I was doing. Just like that animalistic instinct just coming out. And then she would turn it around. She suddenly just like stand her ground and then push me back, and then she'd go, yeah, I'm the human, you're the animal, so go back to where you came from, get back in there for 5 years, you disgusting ugly piece of shit. She'd say all this stuff to me, and it was like that. It wasn't impacting me, it was impacting the character. And it was scaring the character. And so when we'd get the camera out there, and we'd or when I was running into the foyer, when they had the camera in there, the running and the screaming just it felt good. It came out because of all that pumping up. And then when they had the camera outside, and I genuinely... Have you ever seen monkeys run around? Yeah. Got to the point where I'd just been in the character, crouched down for so long, for 2 days, where I would just run around like a monkey when I was going on the offensive or defensive from Lorna. And it was insane to do, because then when the camera's in front of me, it was just everything that just happened just came out. Just throwing it right in front of the camera, in front of everyone. And there was a couple of times where she was pumping me up, and people would come by, and there was this one girl who came in. She was going into Oakland's probably to do her assessment, and she stopped, and because the camera wasn't outside at that point, it was still inside. It probably looked like they had genuinely just found this random man, bearded, messy hair, long hair, blood looking, makeup, mud everywhere, disgusting sort of costume, and his bare feet. I was bare feet outside. I was a little bit worried that I'd get glass in my foot, but luckily that didn't happen. And just moving around like this crazed person. And then Lorna on the phone, well, this girl stood behind her, Lorna not realizing, yeah, I've just found this man. I don't know what's wrong with him. He's moving around like he's an ape, like he's very aggressive and stuff like this. And this girl just kind of stood there just like, what the fuck? And just like shut herself. That was interesting. I think it must have been interesting for people to see. But definitely, I'd have someone or ask Lorna to do that again if I ever did a role like that. I hope I do, because I love doing it. I hope I do a role like that again. It'd be amazing.
I can see when you're doing it. It's really weird. When I look at you now, I see Mike. Yeah. When you were explaining that, there were certain moments where you were explaining how your character behaved. Yeah. and your entire face changed into the character. Yeah, it shocked me. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
he's back. This game
Comes back.
Whoa, you love it. You really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every moment. I like because there was a lot of times where they go, "Oh, don't worry, we just got to do this bit of the scene, this scene, one more take," and they'd be saying that like, don't worry, it's fine, we'll just move on to the next bit after this. You just got to do it once more, just get through it now, it'll be okay. And then I would just kind of just think to myself, this was probably one of the only times where I kind of internally had some thoughts, and I'd just be like, no, do it as many times as you want. Like, I'm loving this. I may be exhausted, my knees may hurt like shit, and I may just, I don't know, break a bone or something, but I'm absolutely loving this. I'm just milking the shit out of this. I just enjoy it so much, and I just can't wait to be in front of a camera again and do even something so close to that.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Man, that's incredible. I'm actually for my dissertation, I'm writing a script for a character that goes into method acting, who gets lost in it. And so by the end of the film, I haven't quite figured it out yet, but the director basically says something, and then the real character, the real person comes out from beneath the character. So yeah, I might contact you for that if you go for that.
Yeah, 100%.
Nice.
I think just given the opportunity to do like a feature film or something like that, and something similar, I think something insane could be made. Just insanity.
You've got the ability. You really do. For any role, I feel like.
You feel?
Yeah, definitely. But from all I've seen of you acting is you transforming into a completely different person with not a single break of character. And it was incredible. And always responding off of the direction that was given. Impressive. Really
I actually was impressed with myself a little bit, especially within continuity, because beforehand, the film I did for Alanis, her film, words, so for that, my continuity was okay, but it really just wasn't as good as I would have wanted it, because we'd just been doing in transit van scenes, which you did, didn't you? Or was that?
I haven't.
No, you haven't. No,
didn't do that at all.
That was unfortunate. That was a good thing to do. It would have been good to see all 3 years doing it.
Definitely.
But when doing that, because it was just a camera on a dash cam in front of you, and you didn't really have to worry about continuity, because you would just be doing it for that one camera once, and so you'd just be doing one take usually, because there wouldn't be enough time to do the scene again. Sometimes we did, sometimes we didn't.
Right.
Because of that, because we were doing that for weeks and weeks and weeks, and that was pretty much one of the only on-camera intense sort of like work that we were doing.
Yeah.
When it came to shooting the film, my first time, generally, it was difficult to get back into it. But by time Emily's film came along, Forgotten, I was in the mode. I was just ready no matter what. Whenever something, I was monitoring my own continuity while trying to stay in this character, and it wasn't always exactly right, but I usually got it close to it. So like if my knee was in one place, and Lorna and Kat were just on point, they were so observant, they knew exactly where something had been. There was one point where I was lying down, or just like where I was lying down, and my knee had been in one place when I'd fallen and I got the glass shard in my hand, which was on the first day of shooting. And I got it nearly in place, but Lorna just knew exactly where it's supposed to be.
Wow.
But we did a lot of one-take wonders on the first day, especially right at the start. We probably did no more than one take on the first 3 or 4 scenes.
Oh, wow.
Realistically, and then we would usually just do a safety. So we'd do two takes, which really wasn't that terrible. We got through it quite quickly. I think that's probably why we did 80 shots on the first day, and then 108 on the second.
Incredible.
I would leave. I wouldn't leave it down to, I don't know. Determination was definitely in there for everyone. Especially to just keep going so long with a project like that.
Definitely.
And I think I really want to take that and that experience and just power through, and not power through. No, that's not the right word. Power on.
Yeah.
Go to the next thing and just keep on going. Yeah.
Keep it going. Hell yeah. Whatever happens. Yeah, you're still reminding me of David Goggins. He's crazy. He ran a 100-mile race in 18 hours without any preparation. He'd done like muscular stuff,
Yeah.
but no cardiovascular. He was at this stage where he was pissing blood, I'm pretty sure, whilst he was running, or every time he'd sit down. The whole world turned into this strange haze because his mind was like cracking, I think.
Oh my God.
And yeah,
That is insane.
it is. It's fucking mental.
I could not imagine doing that.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Maybe the character could, but not me.
Oh, so if you were playing a character that was doing that.
I think there were certain aspects, especially in physicality, of the character that I played that could have done something like that, because even when exhausted outside, when I was getting pumped up by Lorna, like me just running like around like an actual like ape in kind of complete physicality was just sort of like, I just could have kept on going no matter how tired I got, just kept on going, kept on running about, moving about, not stopping, not having to breathe or anything like that. And I think getting into a character like that, you could plausibly do something, maybe not as far as he ran, but could do something insane like running like that for preparation. Method opens up your world. It's dangerous, but it opens up your world because you can just do so many different things that I think certain just is difficult to do by just snapping into it, doing the take, doing the scene, and then cut is called, and then suddenly you're just like, yeah, all right, how was that? That was good. Yeah, okay, cool. I think people who can do that, they are top notch, because just being able to snap in and out of it like it's nothing.
100%. Well, I'm sure you'll definitely get there. Like you seem to already have it. This is the first time you did method. You've acted before. I haven't seen any of your performances, but I'm sure they're just as good, like fucking pigs.
That was an enjoyable experience. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I think definitely with that there was a lot of me that came out, a lot of the weirdness with pig fuckers, all the craziness, especially like sort of facial. I do a lot of things with my face. I've been quoted on, and I think obviously a lot of people have not issues, but when you come into performing in front of a camera, because on stage most people start on stage, and obviously blinking and stuff like that, that's not a big issue, but when you're on camera it shows weakness in your character. So unless that's what you're trying to portray, you don't really blink on camera. I mean, every AFF student knows that. Let's be honest.
Definitely.
But my thing isn't really that. It's more like I do a lot with my mouth. Like I shove my lips, and if I'm like upset, I'll go, put my bottom lip underneath my front teeth, and then just like do a breath and stuff like that. And it is one of those things that I need to work on and stop, because it just doesn't help, and it just looks a bit like too theatery, really, for on camera.
Did you notice you did that at all with sorry, what was your character's name in Emily's film?
Tyler.
Okay.
Although I don't know if you can refer to him as Tyler in the as the ape kind of. I mean, you can, because the only thing you can refer to him as, that is his name.
Right.
But his name is never actually mentioned. I think it was just given for the sake of character background sort of thing, and just to have a name rather than just ape boy.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, did you notice that there were these things that you do like with your mouth? Was that still happening with Tyler?
No, actually.
Ooh.
I don't think that actually even really happened once.
Oh my god.
Because
method is your thing.
Yeah, it might be, because it was like everything, any issue that I would had, even blinking in front of the camera, looking back on some of the takes there was barely ever any blinking in front of the camera, and I think it was mainly probably because when my character was in that room for 5 years and wasn't acknowledging anyone except for when they were giving direction or just telling me about the continuity. Because of that, it just allowed me to not even acknowledge the camera. And so when eye lines were being pointed out, I could look at the camera, but I still just wasn't acknowledging it. So like blinking just wasn't an issue because I was just so into the character. And it was just like when he was screaming at the camera, because there was a point I think underneath the Sony NX70, just like literally just under the lens of the camera, where it was one of my eye lines, and it was a difficult eye line because I had to try and do the jumping bit that I did when I was outside. I was doing it again, and I had to try and keep it low, like a little bit low, so that I didn't go too high that I went out of frame. Right. But I also just had to keep my eyes on that one bit of the camera, but not looking into the lens, so just that eye line. And it was just very difficult to do, but doing it, looking at the shot, it's just insane.
Yeah. I can't wait to see it. That sounds like such a cool shot.
I can't wait to see what they do with it. They're currently the people who are editing the documentary at the moment, the Fila documentary, they're editing the film afterwards. That's literally the next project that they're gonna edit. So I just I can't wait to see what they come up with and see what they do with the footage. And exciting.
Are they students as well?
Yeah, they're students. They're first years. But they're I think for us, being able to do film production in our first year rather than like with the current third years who have only ever actually done it this year, like they've only ever actually done sort of like the editing and stuff like that this year. So we've been given a chance to work with color grading and the different softwares and how to make a good quality edit within our first year. So I'm sure and the person who's mainly editing it, Alexia, she loves it. She's very good with it. She's very quick. She's very slick with editing. So hopefully she can make something very nice and clean with this film. But I'm hoping by third year the stuff that's going to be made because of doing film production this year is just going to be immense.
Yeah, definitely. We didn't get that opportunity. I don't know if you heard.
No, yeah, you got the. I mean, you didn't have film production last year, and you obviously COVID hit halfway during your first year, which is, I bet is unbearable, sort of.
To an extent, but I'm also grateful for it because I don't think I would have done the podcast. Because I told you that tragedy that happened, and then I was thrown into lockdown. Yeah. I went a bit mental, and I thought I think I developed some sort of thing in my mind. I can't diagnose myself and call it a disorder. No. But I thought I was going to become, because I was reading Steve Jobs' biography. I was like, I'm going to become the next Steve Jobs. I don't know how to program. I don't know how to do that. The next book I read was Elon Musk's biography. Also went a bit crazy about that. But you just started. I'm going to become the next one. And I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to become the best podcaster in the world. And then, so I made this podcast. So I'm kind of grateful for losing those few months of university because it's given me this mindset that I don't think I would have gotten if it didn't happen, just because of that suffering that I went through. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes just out of like suffering and just emotions and feelings, you can give you ideas and just motivation to push for projects that you probably wouldn't have had without that, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's kind of like the callousing of the mind that you did with this character. I remember you said you felt a bit more confident after it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even, this is a little bit weird, but like my dress style coming to uni, like in September, was very much 2003. I gave off that vibe, and I kind of dressed a bit like a 14-year-old.
What is that? What is 2003?
Like the sort of like the dress sense from 2003, but just like a common, just like regular sort of dress sense, stuff that like I guess 42-year-old men would usually wear now, but those who go to the pub and have a pint have about 7 pints every Friday would wear Not that I was doing that.
Okay.
I wasn't, but it was
Yeah.
just kind of like the vibe of the dress sense that I gave off. And I didn't.
Right.
I would wear walking boots everywhere because I I worked in go outdoors before, so I just sort of wore them
Right.
regardless.
I think I get the sort of like fashion that you're talking about now.
Yeah. But now definitely doing some of these roles and being around the people that I'm around, the friends that I have, and even this is the costume, well, part of the costume
Oh yeah.
from the scenes that we shot after the monkey bit, where he was before him getting locked in the room. After I'd gone and got a haircut and a clean shave in 40 minutes, which was an experience.
I can
And
imagine.
yeah, so even being able to keep this costume and like some of the clothes and having similar clothes and stuff like that has just given me more confidence when I go out and about, and just allow me to feel more confident in myself. And I think it will allow me to just play so many different more roles, really.
Definitely. Man, it has been so good chatting to you.
I've enjoyed being on here.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm gonna end it here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you for such an insight
No
into
problem.
the method.
Alright.
Alright.